I saw some fervor on the internet, some anger when it came out that Samsung would not be releasing One UI 7 this year. In fact, we'd only be getting a beta by the end of the year. And a lot of questions started being asked. People wondering if Samsung were having issues with Android 15. Perhaps there were issues overall with Android 15, given that Google hasn't even put it on Pixel phones yet. And all that's fair because we had so many issues with Android 12. And I think it was a similar reason. Manufacturers struggled with it. We had delays. Google obviously pushed it out on the Pixel 6 to much difficulty for the users. So I get the questions. However, I don't necessarily think that that's the problem here with Android 15 and One UI 7. In fact, I think you're going to see this a lot more. So I didn't mind it. I think as years go on, you're going to see Android version upgrades become less and less important. I think you're going to see them essentially become back-end things, optimizations, adding developer options that they could use for apps later on. I think it's going to be less of the advertising front-end features that people look forward to when a new version of Android comes out. Because it makes sense, right? You've seen it already. It wasn't Android 13 that was doing a lot of this stuff, or Android 14 that was doing a lot of the stuff that these companies were advertising. It was Gemini. It was Galaxy AI. When you saw the Pixel 9 presentation, when you saw all the stuff that was being demoed, none of it was version specific. None of it was like, well, this is coming with Android 15, or we hope to release this later, or Android 14 allows you to do, on the Pixel 9 allows you to do this. It was all Gemini allows you to do this. You can do this with Gemini. And we saw it with the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, how App Pairs wasn't necessarily tied to Android 15. They backported it to Android 14. I think you're going to see manufacturers separate the main differentiating feature set packages that they have from individual Android versions. Two reasons. Number one is marketing. It's a lot easier to market, and you get a lot more mileage out of saying, well, here's Gemini. Plus, you could pay for Gemini, right? You could pay for Galaxy AI later down the line. Kind of tough if you're tying them to Android versions. You can't pay for those. So that's number one. Well, there's three things then. Well, we'll break it down. That's part one of Section A. Part two is that it's more marketable. You can say, instead of saying, well, we're tying this stuff to Android 14, here it is, it's Galaxy AI or whatever it happens to be. The second thing, and I think the more important thing, and the reason why it's probably happening, is this. You have Samsung and Google now committing to 7 years of software support. If you were to put, as good as all the chipsets are today, if you were to keep putting heavy feature set after heavy feature set after heavy AI feature set, year after year after year, on top of these devices, eventually these older chipsets are going to start squealing. Eventually there's going to be an issue where they just can't handle it in a way that a preferred or an acceptable performance level with these updates. So they have a choice, right? You can either pare down the package, so you'll get this, and this, but you won't get this on older devices, which we've seen before. Apple's sort of done it. They haven't. They kind of did it under the rug, but they've done it before. Or you can do what I think they're planning. You can have the Android version upgrade merely be security patches. You still offer those. You could be some back-end optimizations, but for the most part, we're a fresh coat of paint. But for the most part, we're not adding anything significant to the user experience. So you could say, yes, we're keeping our promise to you. The Galaxy S23 Ultra is indeed getting Android 19. However, you won't be getting Galaxy AI 3.0 or whatever the hypothetical version of AI would be at the time. And I think that's a way that companies can cover themselves, say, hey, absolutely, we kept our promise. Everything's getting updated, still getting security patches. You're just not getting the latest and greatest features, which they keep to this second thing, this second upgrade cycle that includes all the heavy stuff. That's the stuff that's going to be tied to new devices. That's the stuff that's going to have the advertising features that sell phones, is that second package, not Android versions. And we've already seen it. You know, when you watch the Made by Google event, when you watch Samsung Unpacked, these things are the release for this phone, the S24 FE, nothing to do with One UI 7, nothing to do with One UI 6. It had to do with Galaxy AI. It had to do with Gemini. To me, it makes sense. You know, I know everybody could get angry about it, whatever else. I know it's going to stink eventually when you're like, wait a minute. You said I was getting 6 to 7 years of support. How come in year 5, I'm not getting all the new stuff? Well, you know, and I understand it. I understand where the frustration is coming from. But at the same time, I don't think I have the biggest problem with it. Because I'd rather my phone, in year 5, if I were keeping it, be down some features that I already didn't have. Wasn't like I was using them and they were taken away. Be down some features and still run at a level that I was already okay with. Then instead of them trying to shoehorn features into an older chipset, put it on top of a device that maybe doesn't have as much RAM anymore as it needs, I would rather my experience stay the same and I still get security patches so I could use my banking apps, so I could use my financial apps and not have concerns there, so I could still be protected about these vulnerabilities that come out, even though it seems like Google can't stop them anyway. But I still would like that protection there, as opposed to either cutting off support or compromising the performance of my device just to get me new features. If I want new features, at that point, look, that's the upgrade cycle. That's why you'd upgrade. Hey, 5 years on, 6 years on, maybe it's time to buy a new phone if you want Galaxy AI 4.0. However, the extended support to me means that if I want to stick with my phone and the feature set that's already on there, I can. So that's why I think you're going to see. So that's why I really don't care about One UI 7 not coming out. Aesthetically, some people aren't pleased with it anyway. But I think you're going to see Android versions start to take a back seat. And it's not necessarily going to. They might tie it to devices. Like, they don't care. Right? You know, it used to be Samsung, One UI would come out later in the year. Now they might just tie it to the S25 because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The feature set won't be there. The reason why you'd upgrade phones is not going to be Android versions anymore. It's going to be what features we could put on certain devices, and they're going to keep that separate. They're going to keep that separate. And it works for advertising. It works for marketing. You can make money off of it. You know, imagine if they started saying, well, you know, it's $10 a month for Android 15. People would lose their minds, and rightfully so. So instead, they're saying, look, it's going to be X amount per month for Galaxy AI. It's going to be X amount per month or per year per Gemini, which they already do. So those are the things you're going to start to see. It's a marketing thing. It's a money thing. But also on the other side, I think it's a technical thing. It makes it easier for companies to update older phones while not having to worry about how X feature performs on older hardware. If you've made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.